Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. My name is Jordan Roberts. I'm with Journey Alliance, and I'm here with Josh and Chris. I'll let them introduce themselves as we get started. Um, but again, thank you for joining us, whether you're watching this live or you're watching the recording. Some housekeeping things before we really jump into it. We would love for this to be interactive. So if you have any questions as we're going along, please drop them in the comments and we'll bring them up on screen. Or if they're too long, I'll just read them off so that we can incorporate them as we go. As we go along, we'll be mentioning probably this AI training that both Josh and Chris have participated in. You'll see that QR code in the corner there. I know if you're on mobile, you can't scan that. So that QR code will actually take you to the Journey Alliance website where you can get more information about the AI training that we are mentioning. But I've also dropped the link in the comments so that you can check that out at your leisure. With that out of the way, I'm going to let Josh and Chris introduce themselves. So we'll start with you, Josh. Just tell us who you are, and then we'll go to you, Chris.
Yeah, my name is Josh Lipker. I'm a construction CFO. I own my own business. I help subcontractors from 1 to 15 million and a little bit above that. And there's a couple of GCs as well. But we just do the bookkeeping, all of that back end stuff, software, and the construction CFO side. Yeah, I got introduced to Jordan, Eric, and Mark, and quite a while ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And on the AI journey, I saw they had the course on how to use it. And being a business owner, you have to do every single thing yourself. So I'm like, well, how can I not hire somebody and get all of this stuff done without outsourcing it to another country? Because I can't afford to hire somebody here to do all of it. So that's how I got involved and where I'm at. And yeah, I'll let Chris go.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Josh. All right. Chris, how about you?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, evening, wherever you're at. My name is Chris Guerra. I am with Rupert Landscape. It's a commercial subcontractor, primarily on the East Coast in the Midwest. We're about $500 million in total revenue, and really essentially everything from the front door to the parking lot, one-stop turnkey shop. And I am also going to, and I'm in the regional business development role. So I am with essentially everything that is Virginia all the way up to Pennsylvania, and then Tennessee as well. Recently got brought in. So excited to see people in Nashville a little bit more. So my journey is similar with Josh as far as getting introduced to Jordan, Eric, and Mark there in Journey Alliance through LinkedIn and writing online there, brand building. And then the AI journey kind of was an opportunity, that pilot program, which I'm excited to share a lot more about, and kind of my journey with even AI and LLMs and everything in general. So happy to be on.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. We've had a couple more people join, so I just want to put it out there again that we do encourage questions. We'll be bringing them up, incorporating them as we go along. And if you're interested in learning about that training, I have dropped the link in the comments. I do want to pose my first question to you, Chris. I'm going to make you big again. So when did AI first land on your radar as something that might be relevant to you or to your role?
Yeah. So I think for myself, the kind of the initial, you know, how it came about. I think like most people, I was a dabbler, and as things are being talked about more on social media and in the public, Chat GPT as some of the initial iterations of that start going out. I was kind of interested and was using it for more recreational type of things, and then really within, I'd say about the last, personally for me, about the last 2 years, have I had like maybe a more focused effort towards occupational type of things. And then in particular, through starting the program, I should say that I'm probably amidst, in comparison to myself and Josh, I think that I would consider myself more of the AI caveman at first, that really kind of that was really, the program itself had been super beneficial in taking you kind of from a relatively novice level to really being able to be more of a leader in that space, and using the tools in a management and leadership ability. So that kind of, I can get more into the details on that, but that's kind of like the higher level, really what, how I kind of was introduced, and then even kind of the soft journey so far.
Yeah, we are absolutely going to be digging into the details of how both of you use it as we go along here. I'm very excited for that because I know both of you have done a lot with it. But I'm going to pose the same question to you, Josh, before we get to all of that. When did AI first land on your radar as something that was relevant to your work or industry?
So I'm gonna go way back. So when I first heard about ChatGPT, and I heard AI, like I'm burnt out on hearing AI because it could be anything. It could be robotics, and I'm like, that's not even me. Doesn't matter. ChatGPT, I'm like, okay, is this like fancy Siri? Like I can type to it instead of I have to talk to it like Siri. So I kind of ignored it for quite a while. I mean, I see YouTube videos and all of this stuff, but when you reached out and you were like, "Hey, like, do you use it?" And I'm like, "No." So I started to think about it and I started to research it because I didn't want to sound stupid talking to you about it since you know a lot about it. And I was like, "Wow, I didn't know that it could do these things, right? I didn't know it could make a file in Excel for me. I didn't know I could have it make charts. I didn't know I could have it do math and do all of these different um, complicated things." And then as I went through the program, I went from basically like I didn't even want to talk about AI, and I thought I can do everything better than AI. Honestly, I still can in some aspects, but a lot of it it's just anything that well, I mean, I can talk more about it later, obviously, but anything high level that I don't know or anything low level that I don't want to do that I want to have replicated very quickly, I have it do all of that for me now. And it just makes it so instead of me doing everything and taking 80 hours a day, I can do it in about 10. So,
Nice. Yeah, that's pretty
or sorry,
incredible.
80 hours a week. Sorry, 80
Yeah,
hours a week down to 10. So it frees me up to do whatever I want.
yeah. Um, yeah, I think we're really gonna enjoy digging in on that. Let's see. Was there anything, I'm going to start with you, Josh, because you're already up here on screen like this. What were you hoping in particular that AI could help you with? You kind of mentioned the Excel sheets and things like that, but you also mentioned some skepticism of like, I can do this better. So when you kind of first started exploring AI, what were you really hopeful it could help with?
Honestly, I didn't know. I didn't want it to help me with anything. I wanted
Mhm.
to like I went in with an open mind. Like, hey, I realized that the government's investing a lot in this. Other countries are investing a lot in this. Other people and other people in my industry, a lot of people are. So obviously, there's some value, but I know nothing about it. So I'm going to go in with the open mind of um, I'll find out where I can apply it, and I'll just go with the flow. I don't have. I went in just thinking worst case, I go through this program. It's 12 hours of my time to do over 12 weeks. That's not a huge investment, um, plus the financial investment. Um, but I will come away with something, right?
Mhm.
So I did. I immediately saw results. It wasn't like week 10 or week 4 that I saw results. It was like week 1. I already started saving myself time, and it's created me as the business owner. It's bought me my time, which is the most valuable piece of being a business owner. I can do more business development now. I can do more service to clients, which actually produces money versus all the other back end things that does not.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good stuff. For the people that have just joined the program that Josh is mentioning and that Chris likely will as well, if you click the link that I've dropped in the comments, it'll take you to where you can learn more information about that. I do want to pose the same question to you, Chris. Was there anything in particular that you were hoping AI could help you with at all?
Yeah, so I think I think similar to Josh, I had a kind of an open posture when it came to what I could learn through AI, and I think that as I have dug more into it, and really the program, Jordan, that you referenced through Journey, I I think I realized, and you know, I'm gonna already bring out the cliche phrase that for any of us that are in AI and in the kind of the knowledge level that the whole idea that it's not that you're going to lose your job, it's that you're going to lose your job to somebody that knows AI. AI is not going to take it. Some variation of that is posted on social media constantly and shared in these conversations. But I think for myself, what I realized is, okay, what are those things that myself I have, especially as I've moved into more of this regional role where I'm managing other business developers and I'm doing long-term planning and I'm looking at markets that we want to enter into as a company, and I'm looking at how we can effectively identify, you know, the our volume of work in various areas, the clients that we're trying to build closer relationships with. What I've recognized is that how can I, as a manager, streamline systems and procedures and create processes and SOPs that can be handed to others, that can be used to help ramp up onboarding in a much more faster pace, in a much more effective pace.
Mhm.
And also, really, can I take essentially what are the mundane, you know, time investment tasks that I can dramatically decrease that. And so that was kind of where I first started. And I've recognized for myself, I'm looking at various spreads from various branches in our company. What are the differences? How work is being produced throughout the year? What caused those changes? And rather than sitting here and just looking at a weekly spreadsheet from last week to this week in a state like Virginia or Pennsylvania or Tennessee, being able to look at each one of those for 30, 45 minutes, an hour plus to understand all those differences, there are effective ways that not just that I can have ChatGPT tell me what those differences are, but also how I can literally create prompts and processes that I can literally just enter in that information and very quickly and efficiently identify that. So a long answer to say what really kind of has been a place I've been leveraging into it is how I can take the mundane and simplify that and make it, a systematic procedure and that can then be replicated across the company.
Yeah, and that's a really good segue into digging into the real use cases that we've gotten out of this. So you mentioned, Chris, we'll start with you here for this. You mentioned having it examine spreadsheets. What are some ways that you've practically been using AI and implementing it, and how has that benefited you?
Yeah, so like I shared, I mean, that's something, there are weekly spreads that get sent from all the branches that I'm looking at, our various, how each branch that, could be anywhere from 10 million to, $20 million in, revenue that's going to be produced in 2025. And it's okay, there's 30 jobs in this branch, and, understanding what were the dollar amount changes, whether it was contract amount changes because change orders were brought into a certain job, or if there was if work slipped out of 2025 and into 2026, and how can I see that difference in a much quicker way? So that's one way. A couple other ways is even I talked about creating various kind of SOPs and whatnot. So I've created PIPs, performance improvement plans, and not just PIPs themselves for kind of although PIPs don't always necessarily need to be a negative thing. Often it's somebody that needs to have their performance evaluated in certain ways, but also proactively, what are maybe scoring cards and various, a way that I can identify and then grade an effective, let's say a business developer, somebody in, a branch in Pennsylvania or something. And so what I'm able to do is, okay, I take the roles and responsibilities from this, for this specific, for this individual, enter that into ChatGPT or into another LLM, Claude, Gemini. There's a lot of Copilot, being able to then allow it to create, okay, here's a matrix for the how to score each of these tasks and aspects of this role, so that I've got 10 different things that I'm now able to hand right here and say, hey, these are the things that you need to do, and this is your current grade for this, or something like that. So really, again, being able to take these things and replicate them, and also be able to identify where there are areas that I don't have to spend typing it out and thinking of, okay, what would be a way that I would want to grade this individual, but essentially allowing AI and allow these language learning models to essentially be a partner in the creation of these things. So there's a creative aspect in there, and some are better than that. Some are much better for creative tasks. Some are much better for more direct tasks where you actually enter in the information, and I'm putting in drawings or specifications, and then I'm just having it work off of that information provided, or more idea generation. Okay, I'm traveling into this market. I want to build, what are the competition? Who's the competition there? What are the top general contractors or owners in that area? How are we, what's a good way to approach getting plugged into the networking organizations or all that? So a lot there, but it really kind of depends on what the task is. And then there are better tools that are already being, produced at scale to help that.
Yeah, and that's a really good point. Is a lot of people go to ChatGPT. I think that's a really good place to start. But you mentioned Claude. Claude is a little better with like creative writing. I found if you're writing content and stuff like that. Gemini is better at other things. I'm not a personal fan of Gemini, but that's just me. It's good for other things as well. So that is a really good point. I want to pose the same question to you, Josh. What are you using AI for? What are some specific examples of the practical uses for you?
Yeah. So I'm a big believer in the 7 habits of highly effective people, and I like to begin with the end in mind. So what I kind of figured out is what's the result I want my clients to have, and that kind of arena, right? An arena. And in construction, when I did project management, it's always like, okay, here's the final building. Here's what it should look like. How can I make it go in faster, better quality, so there's less rework and different things like that. And that's prefab, right? So I started to view AI as prefab. How do I prefab my documents, my content, my everything that I'm doing to get to that final result? How do I use AI to speed that up so I only have to touch it for 10 minutes instead of 10 hours? So what I've used ChatGPT to do is I've made a LinkedIn content generator, which makes pictures and takes some of my posts. It asked me a couple questions about the content I want to create for the day or week or whatever. So it uses my verbiage, but then it puts it into sentence structures that are easy to read, easy to digest, shareable, things like that. Keeps the same consistent coloring and all of that. I also used it to plan ahead my business. So this is a big one for me. Mm-hmm. I'm living like in 2030 right now in my head of how can I scale it? What would it look like? How do I get there? Making an organization chart. And instead of me as a business owner doing it all by myself and talking to my wife or hiring a business coach or all of these things, I tap into ChatGPT to ask it, like, how does Alex Hormozy look at marketing, for example, just because everybody knows who he is, or Gary Vaynerchuk or whoever. And I start to ask it, what are different models? How do I do this? Can you run simulations of if I hire a person for this amount and they work this many clients and this many hours, what does that look like? And I started to build my whole model, and I got that all done in about 3 months versus if I was sitting here by myself, it would take me about 10 years to trial and error, try to figure it out. Who do I hire next? I hope that this is the right person. I don't know what I'm actually doing. I don't know how to message. I don't know anything, right? I'm just the business owner that knows how to do my thing, my product, but I don't know how to run the rest of the business. It helps me look at, if I hire somebody in this state, what state taxes do I need to do? What forms do I need to fill out? It tells me all of that, to even if I want to do it or not. I don't make the decision knowing this is the person I want to hire and then find out I can't afford the taxes. It's not built in my business model, and now I'm losing money. I'm a big forecaster, and then, like I said earlier, I use it for the higher level stuff. It's kind of like a mentor to me. I can tap into any profession or anybody that has a book or anything, and ask it to reference that. Or I use it to do admin tasks, things that speed up what I do. That's the prefab version of what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's actually incredible. Honestly, mind-blowing that taking what would have taken years and years to get right and nail down, taking it down to 3 months is unbelievable. I do wonder, so you were mentioning the tax forms and things like that. That requires ChatGPT to kind of search the web for you. Do you worry about accuracy as you're using AI? Do you have any concerns with using it as much as you do?
I do, but it always gives references, right? So whenever I ask it, like we were talking earlier, if I want to hire somebody in Montana,
Yeah.
what's their laws? And I can just type in ChatGPT, hey, I'm looking at hiring a person in Montana. What's their state, their SUTA, their FUTA, their all of that stuff. And it pops up and it'll say like, here's the reference for this, here's the reference for this, but it summarizes it all for me, kind of like how Google does now in their AI generation when you search. But I can go into it and see if it's accurate and see if it's credible. I mean, if I read that it's from some blog, like I'm probably going to ignore it. But if it's from an actual, like their state, whatever agency website, like that's a little more credible. And I can click on it to see where did it actually pull it from. So it's not accidentally pulling the wrong number.
Yeah.
And then I just plug those numbers in my spreadsheet and I start to calculate, if I hire this person, what does it look like? I mean, I have a whole calculator built from ChatGPT to find out before I hire somebody, how many clients do I have to have for them to make sense and break even? And how much would that leave me with? And what all is that going to cost? What's that look like with benefits? Who do I need to contact? What paperwork do I need to fill out with that state to be compliant to even hire this person? I mean, I'm trying to not go out of business. So ChatGPT just is like that mentor that they've built a business in Montana, right? I can just ask it, how do I do it? How do I hire this person in Montana? And it'll teach me how to do all of it and kind of guide me through it. And I can fact check it and everything like that. And maybe I'm missing a couple of things, but I mean, I work with business owners every day that that do the same concept as me, where they're really good at building, for example, but they don't know how to do the back end stuff, the accounting, and they get in trouble because then they don't put enough money away for taxes or file the right IRS forms or all these different things. They don't know the right people to ask the right questions. And ChatGPT fills that hole for me, and I can see the value in that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much to dig into there. I kind of want to come back to that idea of it being a mentor, but first I want to go
Jordan,
to you.
can I comment on this as well with this idea
Yes.
that you talked about? Yeah.
Yes.
So with, you've got the term there, if people haven't heard it, is the idea of AI hallucinations, which essentially is, and there's some interesting stories out there you can Google and find out of where, like, people will, AI often, especially the more creative models you talked about, Claude or ChatGPT, they are kind of in a stage where they are more reinforcing something. And so if there have been, comical things that where people have basically been like, I want to live, live away from all society with a tinfoil hat on in a log cabin. And like, I'm currently living, in New York City with a wife and 3 kids or something like that. And they're like, is this a good idea? And they're like, so that's a great idea. You need to explain. And it's, so it is in a space where it reinforces some of those things. So I think going back to something I shared earlier, and I think it's true, is recognizing what is, and keeping in that idea with Josh, the end in mind. If my task is something that is more creative, idea generation, recognizing that I also need to probably give it some parameters that I have. I mean, you can think about it, Josh shared it as a mentor, which definitely AI can be. I'm thinking about it in this context as whether it's maybe an assistant or maybe a peer, a colleague. Whereas maybe you want to, I mean, if you're asking somebody to, if you just say, hey, go, like, create a business model for me for this, like, and that's it. Like you've not given, and imagine just asking, somebody that you work with, like something that broadly. And that's maybe not the best example, but if you ask something that, it's going to be a lot harder for them to really give you a tangible, practical item, and they could completely go off the rails. And then you find yourself, living in a van down by the river or something like that in your little ChatGPT, thread there. And so I think that recognizing, if it needs to be a creative task, give it parameters within how you prompt it. And that's just using, language learning models, those LLMs. Or if it's something that is more, document analysis or more structured in that way, I think about another tool like Notebook. Notebook LM is a great resource where you can enter in, you put in drawings, you put in specs, you put in all the things, and it only references the documents that are there. So Notebook is not great for just creative tasks, but it's excellent at being able to reference, and it will actually put in little tabs in its comments that it makes there and says, hey, if you can click and see the exact area in the documents you've, provided, where it is referencing those exact things, that this exact, portion of the spec, this exact drawing page. And so I think it's recognizing, again, the end in mind. What is the task and what does it require? And if I think about it like almost like a person, then how can I set it up for success? And then you let them do more of the work.
Yeah, I think that's such a great qualifier. And saying you wouldn't just walk up to a colleague and say, give me a business plan. You would give context. And context is so, so important for AI. But further is that a colleague it's a more organic interaction. So they're going to ask you follow-up questions. Even if you do give them something that's a little too vague, they would ask follow-up questions. The AI models they're not really going to do that unless you ask. So you need to give a lot of context. And that's such a good point there. I do want to ask, because we're kind of mentioning the hallucinations. That's an issue that some people worry about. Did you have any hesitations for using AI yourself, Chris, before you jumped into it?
Oh no. Are we prepared to put on our tin hats now?
Yes. Let's do it.
I won't go down the complete rabbit hole, because this could be a whole podcast in of itself, the dark side of AI. But I think that one of the so there was a study actually earlier this year that MIT had that talked about one of the things that's kind of at threat is this idea of critical thinking. My background is in education, so that's something that I taught psychology, I taught history before I came into the construction industry about five plus years ago. And so I have really been able to see a pretty the test there was basically what they found is that within the first less than like 2 minutes of putting in the prompt, people completely forgot what was said. And so within that kind of that, like they completely forgot what they put in the thread. They completely forgot everything there. And so this idea that there's not long-term memories that are being built and neural connections taking place as a result of essentially your brain putting in the work to actually think. And so it's what I guess one of the things, I guess a little bit of the dark side with that is that, there is a higher awareness that we need to have that we are not just using AI essentially to do all of the thinking for us, but that it is that there still is the time and effort that we're putting in. And I wouldn't say that I have by no means do I have the answer of kind of the balance between all this, because we're using this to speed up the processes. So we do want it to think for us. But I think that it's recognizing that, I think I heard somebody say a variation of this, that, people that are already lazy are our AI is going to just, continue to make them lazier, and they're going to be kind of, they're going to get dusted by it essentially, because there's not actually going to put in the time and effort to utilize the tools and help create the tools that are going to make them effective in their role. Whereas somebody that already maybe has, call it ambition, call it a type A personality, or even just has a drive to learn and to grow, this is now another enormous tool in their tool belt to be able to do that. So I think that that's one thing that I'm still kind of wrapping my head around, this idea of, does critical thinking get lost at this? And then the other side is just that, I mean, frankly, as companies are in a sprint to be the leading and cutting edge AI, I mean, we've probably seen, some of the recent articles of $200, $300 million salaries. I mean, there's a sprinting, and as soon as, when you have governments and the military getting more involved in these things, and frankly, they probably already have for a decade or two, and we have no idea about it. I think it's recognizing that profits-based mentalities within this at that corporate level can be a very dangerous thing. And this is kind of this is an enormous frontier. Some are saying that it's the final frontier as far as kind of what's going to take over everything. So again, that's kind of that's something that I'm at least keeping in mind, is that mentality as well. And you can think about that even on a personal context as well.
Yeah, I share some of those concerns. I find myself, as I got really into using AI, I was like, do I really need it to help me write an email? No, I can write that email myself. I need to do that myself. it's a personal mindfulness there. But I also think there's something to it in that large language models have limits to what they can do and what they're good at. Josh, I think you've mentioned kind of being like, I feel like I've hit the limit of what this can help me with. And knowing those limits is really important. And I think a lot of companies that are racing to replace everything with AI are going to hit those limits. And of course, at this point, it's speculation. We don't know where it's going to go, what it's going to do. But those are really good points that we need to be mindful of how much of our thinking we outsource. And I saw something the other day that said using it as a thinking enhancer, not a thinking replacement, or thinking replacer is probably the best move there. But before I move on to my next question, I just want to say for people who've joined, since we started here, please drop any questions you have in the comments, and so we can incorporate them in. We're very interested to hear what you think about anything that we're saying here. And as we go along, some of these concepts that we're mentioning and the training that maybe we're mentioning as well, that is from Journey Alliance. I've dropped a link to it in the chat, where you can scan the QR code to learn more, just if you're curious about that. And on to the next question. I will pose it to you, Josh. Did anything have to change for you personally for you to start using AI to its fullest potential?
Can you give me a little more context of like an example of like what you're talking about?
So, some of us are, maybe more hesitant to pass along things. Like maybe if you struggle with delegation already, you're going to struggle to hand off something to AI.
For me, it's always trust but verify. I think of it like I have managed people. I've been a project manager, and I've had to train people to do the same job I was doing. And I had a process of, I do it with them. I show them how to do it, and then I have them do it, but I monitor and like make sure everything is going right. And then I let them continually do it until I approve, like, hey, you know how to do this, and you don't need any oversight at all. And I trust you're going to do it the right way. And I took the same approach with AI. So like, I guess I skipped the first step of training it, like teaching it how I do it. I more tell it the parameters, let it do some output. And then I do it myself, and I see like, how accurate was it? Was it good? Was it not? Was it up to the standard? Right? There's always a standard, and my standard is like, it's right or it's not.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, well, it's 95% good enough, I'll figure it out. And that's kind of my litmus test of, will I use it or not? So I don't think I've had to change too much. I just more treat it like it's an investment of my time. I have to spend 20, 30 minutes, maybe even 8 hours training it how to do something. Like when I made it in my LinkedIn generator, it might have taken me 12 hours, and I still continually update it, but it saved me an hour every post. So within 8 days, that ROI, within 12 days, whatever, it's paid for itself in that aspect. So those are kind of the mindsets you have to get through in your own head. Is this is an investment to get me to where I want to be. It's like, that's the hardest part about learning how to train people, is I could teach you how to do this, but I can do it faster myself without you, so I'll just do it myself. Well, what's the point in hiring somebody? So you have to take the same approach with AI. I could do it faster myself this time, but if I take the time to teach it, it'll make it faster in a month, in a year, in 5 years. So, except the best part about it is it's not like an employee where it can just leave for another $1 an hour tomorrow. It's there forever. So to me, it's well worth it. I'd put in 50 hours if it'll save me 500 in 3 months. It's just, you have to have enough foresight to realize it'll do that.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. It might be a little bit of a front end investment, but like you said, it's saving you in the long run for sure.
And I have lost, I spent 50 hours trying to get it to do my cash flow forecaster for me, to actually, like, I told it every cell in this 4-page spreadsheet, how it all interrelated, what to ask for questions, how it worked. And it totally shit the bed.
Yeah.
And so I wasted 50 hours, and I realized, hey, here's the limit. It can't do it. That's why, like, when you say I've hit the limit, well, it can't replace everything, but I can still do that myself. And if that's the value that I bring to clients, it can do all the back end data and collect it all and put it into one place so I can enter it in my spreadsheet.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it's still a huge benefit for sure. Yeah.
Sorry, I shouldn't have cussed out there for you.
Who cares? It's fine.
Canceled by LinkedIn.
Canceled.
Yeah, the LinkedIn people are going to actually, we're doing this through StreamYard, so you're safe.
And YouTube.
Oh, and YouTube. Chris, let me pose that same question to you. You had mentioned some of your fears of, losing your ability to critically think and things like that and using AI. Did anything have to change mindset-wise for you to start effectively using AI?
So I kind of shared it a little bit earlier, and I guess the simplified kind of line is this: we no longer live in an information age; we live in a decision age.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the thing that we need to have is, especially with a tool like this and as powerful of a tool like this, that truly, I mean, what we talk about right now in 6 months is truly obsolete. Like, these things are rapidly improving at that rate. And I think that it's recognizing that this is a core aspect and will become a greater aspect of a lot of people's roles and their jobs. And it requires constant training, as certain roles do, but especially people that just really are at the top of their fields. They're constantly, learning and growing and iterating in their profession. So I think that, the requirement is to jump in with 2 feet. And that doesn't mean that, and recognizing you're not going to become an expert, and you also don't need to become an expert tomorrow. But like Josh said, the amount of time that you put in has an exponential benefit when you actually are willing to put in that work on the front end. People were praised for knowing the right guy in the neighborhood that could fix any job. And then, Google comes around, and then, people are getting praised for knowing, like, how to click on the right links and how to search things the quickest and the most effectively there, and not, going to some random, Wikipedia-esque website in order to get all their information, but having the correct stuff there. And now AI is the next area for people to be equipped as that guide, as that sage, somebody who directs you to the right things and with the right information. So I think that that's really the requirement, which, all things considered, the barrier of entry is relatively low. The overwhelming majority of all of these, because we're still at a very early kind of corporate acceptance, I think it's something like only like 4% of like financial companies in particular are, and that's just because of Josh's background and his expertise. There's like 4% of companies and corporate entities that are actually using AI in this at a significant level in their processes already. The people that are willing to do that, it's it's really going to, things are just going to take off for them if they're willing to do that. But it's whoever is willing to. So I think that'd be what I would share there. It's the barrier of entry is still very low, and a lot of free opportunities that allow people to build up that knowledge case. Journey Alliance is a great example of that. Shout out.
I think of it a lot like emails, right? Like back in the late 90s, early 2000s, it's like, oh, emails are nice to have. I don't have to do that. But now it's like, if you don't email, you are that superintendent on site that nobody wants to work with because, like, come on, man, everybody else can do it. I'll just hire somebody else who knows how to do email. It's a basic task of your job. That's how AI kind of is now. And if you're not on board with it, it's just gonna happen. You can't say, well, I want it to go back. It's like college football. Like I love college football, and I love the way it kind of used to be. I am not really a fan of the way it's evolving, but I have to understand that it's never gonna go back, right? So we just have to accept it, embrace it, and I don't want to be that 70-year-old person that's like, I don't know how to use my computer. I can't search for this stuff. I have to ask my grandkids to use my phone. Like, no, I want to be able to use my own phone because I'm an adult and I can handle it. So You just have to, you don't have to be the early adopter, but you do have to realize that you have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you and Chris are both making really good points. Chris made a point about only 4% of financial companies using it. There was some statistic, I'm not going to say the number because I don't want to completely botch that, but the adoption for enterprise companies has kind of stalled. So that's your big companies. They've stalled in their adoption of using AI. And that is a huge opportunity for smaller businesses to get ahead. And it's a benefit because, I mean, Josh, you're an example of it, of running lean with AI. The way that you were able to what's the word I'm looking for? Add to your capabilities, expand your capabilities using AI is incredible and should be kind of an example of what's possible and how far small businesses can get ahead using it.
Yeah, I think of it like massive businesses are probably not going to invest in it for quite a while, especially financial, because there's a lot of risk. There's a lot of laws and regulations around it. So that's why I have to be very careful when I use it. But if I had 10 employees, I would not want to implement it because what if one of those employees made a mistake, inputting data or something? So this is an opportunity for people to really scale what they have because big businesses aren't going to be able to keep up. They're not going to invest in it because they're afraid of the legalities behind some of it. Just my 2 cents.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, we've got a comment saying that your line of "we no longer live in an information age, we live in a decision age" is a really good one. I was going to say that's going to be the quote of the panel. That was a really good one. But I want to ask, yeah, right. Dang it, Chris got it. There's still time. I want to ask you, Chris, though, because you've mentioned a couple of other tools apart from ChatGPT, like Gemini and Notebook LM. How do you determine what's actually going to be useful and what's just hype when it comes to AI? Because there is a ton of hype out there.
It's a great question. I've been sitting on that line for a while. It was applicable to a lot of things in life. And so I'm just like, you know what, here, I'll shout it out in public on the podcast and you'll probably see it more on my end as well. But love me a good one-liner. I'd say as far as we are a little bit still in the wild, wild west when it comes to this. This is like early .com type of stuff where like people are still trying to grasp the utility of a lot of these various companies that are popping up. And I think that it's interesting. I was actually just yesterday on a panel discussing AI as well, funny enough. And it was one of the individuals that was on that panel. And I'll shout him out, Rohit Sethi. He is, his company is within the construction space and within the, really within kind of a lot of document analysis, drawings, and a slew of things that I would not feel comfortable enough sharing all of their capabilities. I do a poor job of doing it, but he shared about this idea of how, you know, some of these companies are even being purchased. If one of these larger scale companies that's in AI basically sees a company that's doing like essentially one thing right or one thing that they can't do well, they are going to gobble them up and either absorb them or just keep any other company from doing that same thing. And so I share that because the specialization is happening at a really rapid pace. But I think that really the only way that you kind of see if something's useful or not is you just kind of got to dig in. I mean, nobody wants to hear that answer, but you honestly just kind of got to take in the time. And I'm sure it's a question that people, you know, both on, you know, most people probably tuned into this because they wanted to understand, hey, how can I use this stuff practically in my role, for my company and my business? And I mean, Josh can certainly speak to it on his end, but this is true for me as well. For myself, like really the way that you become better at these things and you figure out what you need to use and what isn't as useful for you is that you've just got to start tinkering. You've got to have that learner's posture and mindset. And that's probably the quickest way. And then, yeah, you start, you know, you follow good people on social media, you dig into the educational aspect, whether it's listening to some podcasts or YouTube videos or channels. It's like anything that you want to become good at. The best way to become as good at it as quickly as possible is just to give yourself so many reps that you have no excuse, but to finally start having legitimate success. And that's true in a lot of things. So that's what I would say. That's been true for me in this kind of journey, if you will. And yeah, I'm sure Josh has more that he can share on that, but it's probably a similar situation.
Yeah, I think this is probably a good spot for me to say if you want a structured path to learning it, you can check out the AI training that we have been discussing throughout the course of this, either by scanning the QR code or checking that link in the comments. But Josh, I do want to hear from you. How do you separate what's real and useful from hype?
That's a good question. I mean, there's the ChatGPT is like the biggest cheerleader, right? You tell it anything and it's like, yeah, that's a great idea. You're brilliant. And with like 15 M dashes in there. So you have to go through and fix it. And but at the same time, like I don't go read or watch YouTube videos. I don't do any of that. I do it all myself. Like I just think what the way that I use it, and this will be my hack that I'll give away to everybody, is what's my biggest time consuming thing I do right this second? And I'm going to ask ChatGPT, how can I use you to make it better, make it faster? So if it took me 15 hours before and it can do 14 hours, maybe it's not worth it. If it can do it in 10, I'm listening. And if it can do it in 10 minutes, which plenty of ways it can, like, heck yeah, let's go. We're off to the races. And so one thing I wanted to mention for sure was there's a lot of fractional CFOs out there. They all charge between $6,000 to $14,000 a month because they have to have such massive overhead to do all their reporting and take time to control documents and do different things with their numbers. But because of the way that we've been structuring AI in our own business and the way that we do results, we are able to offer software that's AI enabled. We have bookkeeping, which is AI enabled, and we have CFO services, which are AI enabled. And we charge half of the price of just the CFO portion. They don't do anything with software or bookkeeping. And so when you talk about overhead and growing a business, like I can spend 90% less money on overhead because AI does a lot of the things that these other bookkeepers and little things might have had to do before. And maybe they can do more now. Instead of doing 2 jobs, they can do 5 jobs because they have assistance in identifying things and whatever. But it allows you to separate yourself financially from what you have to charge people. And a real world example I give to my clients, say it's a civil subcontractor, if you own all of this equipment and you have to charge X, Y, and Z, but the industry only allows you to charge A, you have to realize like, okay, either this piece of equipment costs me more than it can make me compared to the competition. So I either can't own it or I am going to go out of business trying to own it, right? It's the same thing is true with AI is I can either have all of this bloat, these people working for me to do these menial tasks, this data entry, whatever, and I'm going to charge the client $14,000 a month, or I'm going to get beat out by competition like what we're building using AI, but we can handle 5 times more clients because AI can do those menial tasks instead of paying $20 an hour to somebody who's going to mess it up anyway. And sorry, that's probably rude, but that's kind of the reality. Like, would I rather have somebody that's just another study off topic? My wife's a physician, and there's a study about physicians with using AI. A physician that does not use AI is right about 70% of the time. AI is right about 95% of the time about the same circumstances, the same patients. So you would imagine that a physician using AI is more efficient, right? They're 99%, but really they're 75% because we have a human bias of no, ChatGPT doesn't know what it's talking about. It's not right. To kind of argue back against what Chris is saying about you have to watch out for the delusional aspect of it. But like AI can do so many things and not have the human error of that 10, 20, 30% human error that we miss and that we find out at the last second when it's too late. I'm using it to do that, like for bookkeeping, where maybe somebody typed an extra zero where AI doesn't.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Well, and I think that's also important to know how AI works, that it's a probability model. It's filling in the most likely answer. So it makes a lot of sense for medical issues. It makes a lot of sense for bookkeeping. And understanding that kind of tells you where you're going to really need to fact check, where you're really going to need to think instead. So that's a really good call out. Josh did present that question to me, and I totally guessed that physicians would be 99% accurate with AI. I'm completely shocked to hear it was 75%.
Yeah, it's
I'm
insane.
curious what models they're using. Or what,
I know, I was going to ask that too. I wish we
Well, it
knew.
was probably back in like, ChatGPT 3.0, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It changed. I heard that like 6 months ago. So things change so fast, it's hard to know. And yeah, maybe I don't know what the difference is between going to a cardiologist that you don't want to go to because they don't speak human languages. Like they're not relatable people. In ChatGPT, like my wife's more personal, so like I would go see her, obviously. But
Yeah.
but
Just a
there's
little biased.
like, dude, why not just go to like I'll just go to a McDonald's event, the auto thing, and just say, hey, I have these symptoms, and ChatGPT spits out, here's your problem, here's your pills, good luck, or here's your diagnosis. Granted, nobody's going to want to go work out or change their diet, but
You're
Yeah.
giving me WebMD like flashbacks where people like put in stuff and they're just like, I have these symptoms. What's happening? They're like, you have cancer
Pregnancy.
of everything. And
You're
it's
pregnant.
pregnancy. You're a man. Yes. Oh my goodness. You're making me think about that. But no, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, sorry, we have to hijack this a little bit, Jordan. We have to have fun. I can't just sit here in a podcast and go back and forth.
And no, I appreciate that. I think that makes it fun. As we're rounding out, because we are getting close to time here, we have hit on this, I think, in so many different places that if you've been watching, if you've been here for the whole thing, you know the answer to this. But I'm going to ask it directly anyway, Chris. If someone in the audience said, I really don't have time to go play with this thing and figure this out and figure AI out, what would you tell them?
Outside of the shameless plug of do Journey Alliance's stuff and have a direct training course and everything,
Yeah, true.
no.
You could try our training. Yeah, outside of that.
Outside of that, I think I like something that Josh said earlier is think about don't try to AIify every single thing that you have in your role. Take one task that's probably the most laborious, time-consuming task and see if you can iterate these LLMs in order to, a ChatGPT, a Copilot, to be able to decrease that time in a significant manner. And I think that if you start right there, one, I think it will open your eyes towards the utility of this. And then also you're going to be learning how to prompt, how to ask better questions of these models, how to the possibilities of that. I think that there are, again, the educator in me always wants to say go and do some research, but nothing beats just digging your hands into this stuff. And you can even look up like, hey, how can I better prompt, Gemini or Claude? Like you can look that up and you'll find some Reddit threads. There are people that have businesses now that are literally just selling prompts. Like that's their whole business model. Like I've seen them.
Yes.
So they're definitely, and that's probably these, because, LLMs are just one small portion of what AI is in the larger context of it. But to the common man, that's probably just what they think of. And so I think that that has the kind of the lowest barrier of entry to everything. So that's what I would say. Find one task and just kind of dig into it. And certainly in the construction industry, especially in the administrative type of tasks, you guys can probably think of dozens of tasks that that could be useful in that. That's what I would say.
Yeah. Very good stuff there. So Josh, you've definitely hit on the ROI of investing time on the front end of doing this. But just to put it out there as a direct question, if someone said, I don't have time for this, what would you tell them?
I'll be blunt with everybody. Like I'm lazy. and not in a way that like I don't want to work, I don't enjoy working. I am a future planner, and then like, okay, here's the plan, here's the script, everybody do it all and report back to me, and we'll adjust it. And I like to do as little work as possible to get the most outcome. And what I would say is, if you learn to use ChatGPT to buy back your time, you can do that. Like when I was a project manager, when I was an assistant project manager, when I started everything, I might have made 15, 20 bucks an hour. But as I grew in what I did, I made more money, but it was all based on how much time I could put in to do it. And when you take time to learn how this works, now you can make 2, 3, 4 times your time, and you can make 2, 3, 4 times your income. Like if I wanted to, I could, if I maxed out and I did a 40-hour week, I could probably bring in $1.5 to $2 million a year doing fractional CFO services with the bookkeeping and all of that stuff. That's not my goal. I want to work 20 hours a week and make half that. I want to make, what's the fastest way to $400,000? And if that's 5 hours of work, like, hell yeah, I'm in. Mm-hmm. That's where I'm at. That's why I say I'm lazy, because I want to work as little as possible to help my kids grow up. I think of investing time into AI, like investing time into teaching my kids how to cook, how to mow the lawn, morals, things like that. If I don't do it today, I'm going to be so far behind, and I'm going to feel guilt the rest of my life that I wish I would have done that when I had the chance. And I'm using AI to give me that chance, but also that analogy to say, you're going to regret not using AI today, and it's going to hurt more in 10 years, 5 years, even 2 years, with the rate it grows. It's going to hurt you more to have not jumped on it now, because people are going to have 2 years on you learning how to do it. So to me, that's the urgency that I feel. I need to just do it and embrace it, even if it takes me an extra hour a day. In 10,000 hours, I'll be a professional at it. And you better believe I probably put 10,000 hours, it feels like, into it.
Yeah. I think Josh is our super user here for real. If that doesn't convince you, I don't know what would. Honestly, that's a really great point there.
Whether you use, like, I love what Journey taught me, because it's like if you're just on the fence of I don't even know if I want to get AI, like at least start with there. Like if you don't, you're gonna be stuck in that dead end job the rest of your life, because literally you're gonna be the one entering data into an AI model for other people. If that's what you want to do the rest of your life, don't look into AI now. But if you look into it now, you're going to be the ones that are teaching other people how to use your tools, and you're going to make 5, 10, 50x your income and be a solo billionaire if you want to be.
Yeah, that would be nice, wouldn't it?
Literally, that's the capability here. Yeah.
All right. Well, we're just about at time. So, Josh, how can people contact you?
Don't. No, I'm just kidding. You can email me at josh@constructioncfo.net, or you could just LinkedIn me, Josh Lubker, Sulphur Prairie Management, this Construction CFO, and I have YouTube as well.
Awesome. And Chris, how about you? How can people contact you if they want to?
I won't be as shameless as Josh within that. Yeah, you guys can find me on LinkedIn. And more exciting things to come on my own business and all of that. And I'll be probably chatting with Josh about all of that more. So see exciting collaborations to come there. But yeah.
And ChatGPT, I bet.
Of course.
Yes. All right. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. I am not so fancy as to have my own YouTube channel. So LinkedIn is my primary channel. You can also look up Journey Alliance there as well. Or you can check out our website there, which I've dropped in the links, or scan the QR code. And thank you again for joining us as our audience. And thank you to Josh and Chris for all of the valuable insights that they've shared. Thank you, everybody.